What's up, everybody? This is Dominic D'Angelo of OneTrueSportTV.com and FourHorsemanNetwork.com, and we are live for episode 24 of Great Talk with the Boss, Magnum TA and Greg Gagne. Hey, and we got Magnum TA and Greg Gagne right here with us live. Magnum, how you doing? Greg, how are you doing?
Go ahead, Magnum. He had a big birthday, a couple days ago.
Yeah. I'm still trying to recover. This whole 65 gimmick is something I can't really wrap my head around too well. But yeah, I'm glad to be in the game, and it certainly I don't see any retirement anywhere in the foreseeable future. So full steam ahead.
I thought you were just able to run a car at this point. I thought you were turning 25, Magnum.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And we got the young, spry Greg Gagne here too. Greg, how you doing?
Oh yeah. Well, I'm a little. I didn't have a birthday yet, but I got a few years on TA. And
do you?
Well, quite a few, as a matter of fact. You turned 65 or 66?
65.
I got.
You trying to keep pushing me down that road.
Back on anymore, Greg.
I got 10 years on them. That's why I don't remember a lot anymore. So bear with me.
You and Rick both. So there's something about that generation.
Yeah.
How about it? We got a good chat going on. Almost over 100 people already tuning in, but we got some of our regular members, our One True Sport members from Leon Evans, who just also had a birthday. Happy belated to you, Liam. We also have Darren Staley, who's a stalwart here. David Von Boglin is in the house too. We got plenty of folks in here. Yep, new members. Josh Goddard. I thank him so much for that. And Amy Vaughn, one of the biggest fans of Arn Anderson I know, the first lady of the Enforcer that she's known as. So thanks for everybody for joining in here. And get your questions in. We are going live up until 6:50 p.m. And then you guys got to get ready for Tully Blanchard joining on One True Sports. So what a doubleheader we got here. It's such an impactful day. And I thought, what a great way to kind of start things off. Tully Blanchard is joining us for an episode on One True Sport. And earlier this week, we had Medusa on tap. And both of you guys, Greg and Magnum, you guys have your relationship with Tully and with Medusa too. Greg, I wanted to get your little background about Medusa herself, getting it introduced and starting off in the AAWA. And she was a real trailblazer for women's wrestling. Wanted your perspective on all that.
Oh, she's just a great gal. But what did you say there? I had something with Medusa?
Well, that she got introduced just into the AWA and everything.
I thought you meant something else.
I have no idea about it.
No, she was a fantastic lady and a hard worker. Man, I'll tell you what, we made a trip to North Dakota, and I had a Corvette at the time, and we drove up there, and we were talking on the way up, and she was only maybe wrestling for maybe a month or two, and she was wrestling a gal named Mimi, who was out of Hollywood, and she wanted to be a pro wrestler too. And it was a tough night for the two of them.
Yeah.
They got a pretty good ass chewing when it was over, and then we had to make the drive back. But I eased up on the way home, and we just talked about wrestling, and you can't let egos get in the way, and you have to go out there and make sure you have a great match and entertain the people. But both of them wanted to look good all the time, and it was quite an affair.
How about that?
But otherwise, she was a trailblazer, and she's done so much for professional wrestling and been a great representative of our sport. And I know TA was able to spend time with her too. So, TA, what did you think of Medusa?
Oh, I thought she was amazing. I mean, I didn't know of her until Jim Ross introduced me to tapes of her, working in Japan, and she was hard-hitting, hardcore, very physical, and she's not a little dainty, woman. I mean, she's 5'10" and in shape and can go. So she had the package, and it's funny because she didn't really get to showcase those skills in WCW. They end up using her more in a managerial, valet-ish type capacity with Rick Rude and different things. And it was kind of unfortunate because it really, didn't give her the ability to shine like she was capable of in WCW. Then when she, went and had a run in New York, and they came back to WCW the second time, she got a little bit more ring time and spotlight that she really deserved, because she wasn't window dressing by any stretch of the imagination. She could go.
Yeah, she was a great athlete. Great athlete.
Right. Yeah, it's really impressive. Even as a kid, when I first tuned in, I was introduced to her. She was in Alundra Blaze, and going up against those matches with Bull Nakano and everything like that was very impressive, and kind of just was different at the time, because you did not see women's wrestling in the forefront, on the major promotions. So it was really kind of cool that she indeed was one of those two, at least for me as a kid, to see that kind of thing happen. So
she made a great impact in Japan too.
Yes.
She made a lot of trips over there. I mean, she was nice and solid in the ring, and she was an athlete, strong as heck, and a bodybuilder, and everything she did was she was spot on. And we were very fortunate to bring her into our sport and have her represent wrestling the way she did. And she's still an ambassador to our sport, and we should have her on here one day.
Absolutely, yeah.
And not to mention a world champion monster truck driver.
Yeah, how crazy is that?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know if you ever followed that, that form of entertainment, but that's no small feat to do what they do in those big, absolute monster trucks, 1,500 horsepower. And, I watched her blow into that scene and dominate. And I think she was a two-time champion.
Yeah.
Trained by Dennis Anderson, who was the best of the best. So, yeah, she's a triple threat.
Right? Yeah, and she's fearless too. And she does not take any shit either. I know that much.
No, that's for sure.
Not
she tells it the way it is.
Right? Is not afraid to speak her mind either, and not whatsoever.
Well, one thing, she never wrestled Andre the Giant. Wasn't that our focus today?
Yeah.
Whoa, geez, here we go again.
Hey, pump the brakes, Greg. We got some time here.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know.
But no, guys.
We're putting that off till next week now?
Probably, yeah, we are.
Okay.
We'll get to Andre next week. I promise, guys. It's gonna happen. I'm waiting for that one's gonna be a doozy and everything. So, guys, if you have questions, help us out. Use the super chat. That always gets the traction going and helps us a lot. We have a good question here. Greg, can you share a Crusher story? Do you have a good Crusher story, Greg?
Oh, Crusher story?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, let's see. I'm trying to think of one that I can tell here and not get us all in trouble.
That typically happens on this show. It's like, which one's going to be tell and not?
He was quite a good character, and he was an unbelievable personality in Milwaukee. He'd go by Crusher, the man who made Milwaukee famous. After Miller Beer made Milwaukee famous.
Yeah,
and he was when you walked into Milwaukee. I mean, he was like the guy. Wow. And quite a personality. He used to, later on in his career, he used to follow Jim and I around, and if we could help him out in any way. He'd always bring the champagne. But he was him and the Bruiser were quite a tag team. They teamed up in Chicago, and man, they sold out every arena they were ever in. And the Crusher was a hard worker, came from a background working in the factories and stuff, and became a wrestler. And he set it on fire.
Man, yeah. I thought it was so neat too. I think it was like 2018, 2019. Didn't he got a statue in Milwaukee, right?
Yes, they did. They honored him in Milwaukee. In fact, a bronze statue. It was out at I think it's out at the airport now. They moved it they had a park in Milwaukee, and I went out there for the Jim and I went out when they did the big announcement and a big party there for him, and it was quite a spectacle. And I think now they've moved that into the airports. When you come in Milwaukee, there is a big statue of the Crusher with the cigar, and he'd wear sunglasses on his interviews with the one lens out. He came out of the bar the night before and had to throw some of those turkey neck bums out of the bar, So and have the big cigar, and He was a wonderful person, a great interviewer, and you know, in the ring, he did what he had to do, and he was God. He drew money. He was big.
He was the kind of guy too that didn't really need a title either, right? Like,
He what?
He was the kind of guy that didn't really need a title either.
No, he won the world championship at one time. Though he had it for a short time. Tag team champions with the Bruiser, also with Baron von Raschke. Him and Baron teamed up. That was quite an outfit.
Yeah.
They drew a lot of money, and they were sensational in the ring. Just a really, they did some fantastic interviews together, though. I mean, Baron had the claw, and that's all you needed to know. Great interviewer, and the Crusher was a great interview, and they would almost try to top each other every time they were on. So you didn't know what you were going to get, but it was always great.
That's, man, characters like that too. It's like, you can't write those. Like
he was a working man's guy. I mean, he worked in the factories and all that, you know, and the average guy could really relate to him, you know, go after work into the bar and have a few beers and get in a little barroom brawl and head home. And that's the way he did it. And he brought that same image into professional wrestling, and it worked phenomenal for him.
Magnum, Dusty was kind of like that, obviously, for, you know, Crockett and everything to that aspect. Is there another guy that really was like the blue collar kind of people could really relate to, maybe on a smaller level than Dusty? I know Dusty kind of epitomized that in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of guys back in the day, you know, from Jim Crockett Promotions, you know, that whole thing growing up. I mean, that was a common theme, you know, kind of. I mean, you had your guys that wanted to be, you know, represent the Hollywood jet flying kind of looking deal. Besides Flair, I mean, that was, you know, people that wanted to be presented as a superstar. But I mean, guys like Rufus Hart Jones and you know, guys that could talk so well and relate to people, you know, every day. Because again, it really, you know, that was our bread and butter. I mean, certainly we had the professionals and doctors and lawyers and everything else that followed wrestling, but that hardcore group that came down and paid their hard-earned money every week and watched it were, you know, by and large the blue collar fan. And you know, of course, Dusty tapped into that to the nth degree.
Yeah.
But I mean, nobody could tug on their heartstrings like he could and talk about things that were relevant in you know, that they could relate to. And that Hard Times interview they did was, you know, a classic to this day. Yeah.
Probably my all-time favorite promo, I would say, is that promo. I think if I had to pick one. Is there, when he, like, certain moments, is there certain things that really stand out to you that Dusty did with the current times from a promo perspective that he connected with, like something that was topical at the time that really resonated with fans at the moment and anything like that? Is there a certain news outside of wrestling kind of topic that he kind of tackled? Is there something that stands out to you, Magnum?
He was always stretching and to try to be, I mean, he pictured himself, you know, like when Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier were feuding.
Yeah.
And he had that, you know, that gift of gab. And as a matter of fact, they had Joe Frazier, you know, refereeing one of the matches between him and Flair, you know, early on for that reason. So he was always, you know, wanting to, he wanted to relate to those people, but he wanted them to see him as this massive superstar. I mean, his thing was creating a superstar persona, and people that he wanted to draw money with. That he called, you know, if you were a big money ball player, and he designated in his head that that's your role and that's where you were to be. You know, he did everything to craft it around you to put you on that pedestal and put you in that spotlight. And and he was the absolute master of it. And the time that he and I worked so closely together, he wasn't pushing himself that hard because he had an agenda for me, but he was still keeping, the feud and the things going. He knew when there was mileage still left in something. He wasn't like the kind of guy that was going to beat a dead horse when there were so many successful things going on around him. But I mean, the fact that he could still go out there with Flair and go 30, 45 minutes and they could tear the house down, and, again, I think Dusty was so Rick's 10 years older. Dusty's was about 14, 15 years older than me. And he still had plenty in the tank and could still do it. But again, it's so different to see him in his Florida days and Florida Championship Wrestling and what he did on, Georgia Championship Wrestling before all this happened and until it evolved into, the Crockett promotion and a coast to coast type business. It was just, it was amazing kind of watch all those transitions go. Because, he basically wanted to be the star as long as he could, but he also got a great deal of satisfaction out of being the Cecil B. DeMills.
Yeah.
Create the magic, and he could dream some stuff up and talk it. And I don't know if you ever remember when they did the vignettes with WCW and they had Dutch Mantel and Black Bart and somebody else and doing this Western stuff. And it went up like to Ghost Town in the Sky or something and shot all these things. It was like classic television. It could have been a sitcom, and it was just, to push this little group of guys that they had no intention of doing anything but having them kind of in the middle of the card and, bouncing around and being entertaining. Randy Colley, he was the other one in it. But it was so funny that, he could come up with an idea and they could go do something that was almost completely improvisational and it'd be better than something anybody could sit down with a screenwriter and come up with. So he had that gift and that magic touch for creating these very unique things. And just if he'd ever hit on if the right person had seen it at the right time, Hollywood would have swooped him up.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah.
Was Stan Hansen playing for that group by chance, you think?
The what?
Was Stan Hansen playing for that group you were just talking about, Magnum?
I still didn't get it. You broke up.
Stan Hansen?
I still didn't get it.
Oh, you still didn't get it. Stan Hansen?
Stan Hansen, no.
No?
It was Dutch Mantel and Black Bart.
And the other guy.
And Tom
and
Colley?
I think it was Randy Colley.
Randy Colley.
They were like they had the old Western hats on and the long rider coats and all the stuff. It was hilarious. I know Dutch probably doesn't remember it with fond memories because I think he's got some very opinionated views of some of those things Dusty did.
Really?
But Dutch doesn't really mince his words, but it was just good stuff. And Dusty would, rub elbows with, Willie Nelson and Hank Williams Jr. and all these folks. And he just, he reveled in just that thing. He was in the limelight, whether he was in the middle of the square circle or if he was holding court at the corner of the bar. It didn't make any difference.
Right there.
Yeah. The personalities you got back then, and I think of the Crusher and Dusty and all the other greats that came through. They were so phenomenal on their interviews, and nobody wrote interviews for them, and they were very creative and came up with these unbelievable things. Crusher would come out with those sunglasses with the glass out, the big cigar, You talk about doing the polka with Wanda the night before, 250-pound Wanda. That's all he danced with, the big Polish gals, and everybody could relate to that, and that's what made those people so popular. Same with Dusty. He related to that average guy out there, they put people look at athletes and, they put you up here. And when you can come down to their level, that's when you have tremendous success. And when the people can relate to you. And that's why the interviews were so important, because that's where you got the real personality, the real character of the person that came out.
Right.
And a lot of guys who tried to be somebody they weren't were never successful.
Let me ask you this, Greg. Did Vern kind of struggle with that connecting because he was such a big figure and being like an Olympic wrestler and all this kind of thing that he was so good at, and he was on a different level of that. Did he have trouble kind of connecting in the way that the Crusher or somebody else?
No, not at all. No, Vern was, he was the all-American guy.
Yeah.
And he could relate to the people really. I mean, he related, in the 50s, he was the biggest thing on
That's what
TV.
I mean. Like, because I was thinking would that be more difficult for him to kind of make that?
Well, no, you just have to be yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what he used to tell us. It's who you are inside. Let that come out. Don't try to be somebody you're not.
Mm-hmm.
And just when you talk so that people can understand it and feel it, and feel your emotion.
Right.
And he was great on helping people with their, like Dusty and Vern. They were both on that level where they could really help find the person's real personality and help them create an interview. Crusher didn't have to. I mean, that was just him. He was so unique. You never knew what he was going to say out there.
Yeah.
And little Marty O'Neill, he'd do an interview, and after Crusher would get off, he had that little grin, and puts a glass, says, "You heard it all, folks."
You got it all there.
Yep. Don't miss this one.
We'll pop up this super chat here from Dwayne. This is a good one here. Dwayne Atkinson. Greg, how come Arn Anderson was never brought in the AWA? Seems like he was from Minneapolis, or was he offered and declined?
I never knew why. I mean, I don't think, he was pretty well set where he was at,
Right.
There's no reason when you're being successful where you're at to just move somewhere else.
Right.
And I don't think Arn was from Minneapolis.
No, he was just
Pensacola. Yeah, maybe Pensacola.
Yeah, Ole Anderson,
Georgia, right?
Ole Anderson was Vern trained Ole.
Yeah,
and trained Gene also.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they became the Andersons, and then they brought in Arn and the Anderson crew. But no, he never was. We'd like to have had him in Minneapolis, but he would have such a run where he was at. There's no reason to, get up and move your family to come to work a different territory at that time.
And I knew he's a big fan of the Carolinas, and staying there.
Yeah. Well, we'd have loved to have him. I mean, they were. I'd have loved to have Jim and I work with the Andersons.
Yeah.
That was quite a crew. And then when they formed the Four Horsemen, you miss not being able to, been able to work with those people in the ring.
Right.
And I really, I never left the AWA, so I never had that opportunity. We went to St. Louis and Georgia for a couple of weeks. They brought us down to Atlanta to go with Bob Orton Jr. and Dick Slater for the championship. And the first night we were there, we had a great match with Dr. Jerry Graham, the big one.
You were telling, you mentioned
it. I know, I've talked about that. But after that, they booked us with Bob Backlund and Jerry Briscoe every night. So, we're not going to have any opportunity to draw any money down there doing that.
Right. You need this.
So, no, I never had that opportunity. I wish I would have. I wish I'd had an opportunity to go to the Carolinas and work, with the great talent they had there.
Absolutely.
I'd love to have worked with Magnum at one point.
How about that? Well, yeah, there could, we could fantasy book a lot. I want to see that match happen still. So I'm down for that. But okay, Dwayne Atkinson asked another. First I ever got emotional was seeing Magnum walk out at Crockett Cup. Was that planned in advance or did it happen last minute, Magnum?
No, I came to the event to come to the ring. Mm-hmm. We didn't really know the impact it was going to have. It was my first public appearance, since the accident. Yeah. And Baltimore was just a great venue for us. It was so electric, and we were so strong there. And I'd wrestled Flair, I don't know how many times, and Tully and Nikita, the whole group there. So, yeah, that long walk from the back of that building out to it, for me, it was like I walked up on Mount Everest or something to get there. But the fans it was deafening. It was amazing reception, and something I'll never forget. So, it was emotional for me. I can imagine what it was like for, people that were living it, live and watching all that, unfold.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Jeez. Yeah. What a moment too for that. And, man, yeah, even I kind of feel myself like getting that, man, like getting caught up with that, how cool that would have been. And, oh my gosh.
But that was real life.
Yeah.
And that's what was projected to the people, and that's why they got so emotionally connected to you. They do now, the WWE, watching their programs now, I see it changing quite a bit, and they're getting back to, I think, a little bit more of the great storytelling in the ring, and where people can emotionally get into you, rather than just it being, to me, it was like, here's the big show coming to town, and here's all the great personalities of bing, 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 and you had a great time. But to emotionally get that crowd into your personality, that's when it's electric, and that's when you go out there, and I can't even explain the feeling you get. The goosebumps and the adrenaline going through you.
Well, I'm going to give you some goosebumps and switch gears.
Okay.
So where's Ricochet going?
Ooh, that's a good question. So Ricochet. Yeah. Did you see that segment on Raw this past Monday, Greg?
Is that the one where he got racked up real bad?
Exactly. Yeah. We're
thrown through the windshield of a car.
Yep.
And taken off in the ambulance.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And he'd been all over social media telling everybody that he'd given his notice.
Yep.
And his fiance is probably arguably one of the best announcers in the history of wrestling, working for them. So if that dynamic isn't got everybody sitting on the edge of their seats to watch, that's more interesting than anything they had him involved in while he was there.
100%. That's
great. To be fair, I know hands down, Tony Khan, Will Ospreay, they have this dream of having a Will Ospreay, Ricochet too, blah, 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 blah. But man, I just hate it because there was so much meat left on that bone and what could have been done. And, it's like if they hadn't, they pushed Roman Reigns for what seemed like years when they couldn't move the needle a centimeter and make people care about it. And Ricochet's not 6'5" and 300 pounds, but I have never seen someone work in person that the very first time I saw them, I saw something that I'd never seen anybody do before. And it's not just his ability to high fly. He is a walking, talking, living, breathing superhero for real.
Right.
And can work the style Greg and I work, can work any style imaginable. He just chooses to do what he does because he can. And they couldn't, with everything else going on there. And I mean, I know Sean had to have liked him and as well as Hunter. Somehow that thing just was a missed opportunity because his mic and persona and getting the people invested in him as a character is the same thing that Roman Reigns couldn't do.
Yeah.
And it doesn't just happen overnight. You've got to give them opportunities, sprinkle them in different things and do that. But you can't steal the hope of a young lion and make him not feel like he's got a path in your organization. So I'm watching that closely just to see where all that unfolds because, it's not to say that he couldn't go somewhere and come full circle and come back like Cody did.
Right.
And come back. But there is no other, there's everybody else. There's a WWE and then there's everybody else, trying to play catch up in some way, shape, or form. And unless you can, main event, WrestleMania, I mean, that's the Super Bowl of our business today.
Yeah.
And if that's not your goal to do that, then you really shouldn't be lacing up your boots.
I completely agree. 100%.
So anyway, I had to throw that out there because
we
didn't have a lot of time, but that's a big deal.
It really was. It was good. And his fiancee there, her getting in that ambulance. I mean, that was emotion.
Yeah.
That was old school emotion right there. Is he staying with the WWE, TA, or is he?
From how it sounds, reports sound that he's probably leaving.
Really?
And, yes, and I think it's a big aspect of it. Probably money, as usual. But I think too, it's like, what Magnum, you were kind of referring to it. I think he started off in there. He felt like such a big deal being signed by WWE initially. I remember him going there, and I was like, oh, they're gonna make something out of him. But whatever it was, which I'm probably thinking Vince McMahon was just like, yeah, he's not my type of guy. Not big enough. Not maybe on the mic he had questions or something. But here, and like Roman Reigns was the be all end all here. And so I think he was extremely limited and kind of almost snake bitten after that fact, where like he was lost in the shuffle. And a lot of the athletes that came in later on was more reflective, maybe Ricochet's style and stuff like that. And so here he got lost in the mix. And like they had moments here, like especially on the back end of this stuff, like with the Speed Championship, and then he had some good storylines where he was winning a lot of matches and being in contention for stuff. But I really think his initial jump into WWE, especially on the main roster, was inhibited by Vince McMahon's decision making at the time. I think
with all the finesse, you got to be able to change gears. There's got to be a rawness, almost a savageness that you can bring out in the midst of all the other things. I mean, Rey Mysterio has done a great job of being that size, doing those things, but still being able to tell that story, convince you that his impact, his ability to do damage, come out as the underdog. He's made a career out of that, done it, fantastic. And that's there's just a nuance and a piece in that package with Ricochet that go along with. It's not just the ring, the talking and getting people vested in you. Is looking like, well. So who's the guy that was in the match with Braun? What's that guy's name?
Ilya Dragunov.
Dragunov.
Yep.
Dragunov has got that raw. Looks like he is a flipping pit bull, attack. I mean, he attacked flipping, I mean, he was no more impressed with Braun Breaker than a man in the moon. I mean, he came after him like he was going to steal his lunch and go take his girl.
Right.
So, I mean, he came out there and gave a fight. And there's a mix of all that marries up to the spectacular, looking and then going and leaping and cutting a 6.5, flip turn, onto everybody. There's a magic of all that to mix that up. So I want him to go make all the money he can make and do what he does for his family. I also want to see him put the rest of the elements together in there that could make him that well-rounded. Because I mean, his work compared to Will Ospreay's is they're not even the same sentence as to me. But if he ends up going there, which I would say 99.999%, that's probably what'll end up happening. If they don't do any better with him than they've done with some other very high flying folks that they brought in there, then you'll just get lost in the spot monkey fest of that world.
It all goes back to the storytelling in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, with Vince and with the he wants action, constant action. Well, if you have constant action and you're doing these great big huge bumps and coming flying right back up, somebody knocked your head off. How do you expect that people get emotionally involved in that personality?
Yes.
And that's why, I say I like it. I know they have to keep the pace up for TV because the attention span of the American public, according to TV, is 8 seconds before they turn the channel. So they want that constant action. But I've noticed with the WWE, they're starting to tell more of a story in the ring and slowing their talent down a little bit. But there were still some guys that, boom, 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 boom. And even though they're great, they're not emotionally getting the people involved with them.
Mm-hmm.
And you can only do that either with your interview and then your match, to me. And maybe I'm way out of the atmosphere here with all this, but because things have changed. But I still think that we could go into the ring and have an old school, if you had two great personalities that knew what they were doing, and slow it down a little bit, tell that story, and you could still get the people.
One group today could do that. You could have a tremendous, and Randy Orton does it every week.
Randy does it every week. There's a prime example there.
Yeah. So Randy's the master of getting all the mileage out of everything, timing, selling his back, like he's hurt himself and he looks like $1 million, and he doesn't have the things that he does look like they mean something. The punches look good, and just the guys that just go do things and then they sell them and then they're trying to make this, everybody look tough and everything. They lose the whole continuity of what they can do. I mean, Dusty Rhodes went out there with that Perry kid the other night and put on a clinic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
A clinic.
Yes.
And it wasn't bing bang boom all over the place, but it was absolutely fantastic.
It totally was. Dusty knows what he's doing, and I think it helped out Perry, and
did.
It made him. He totally made him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Perry's way better heel than he ever was a babyface.
Oh, I completely agree too. Yeah, absolutely. He's like that chicken shit. But he's a good looking kid, and I think there's a lot of potential with Jack Perry moving forward.
Huge. Yeah. Him mixed with the right folks is going to be big stuff.
Before we close out here, Magnum, I just wanted clarification. So do you think Ricochet is a better worker than Will Ospreay, or do you think Ospreay?
I think Ricochet's he's the best of that style worker in the world.
Okay, great.
I'm not a fan of Ospreay.
Yeah.
I'm a fan. You're comparing apples and oranges.
Yeah, I watched.
Realistically, Ospreay talks a little bit better on the mic, but just a little bit.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and I think to what you're saying too, like I'm kind of was unaware that like Ricochet could wrestle the style that you guys are talking about, like that you guys have exemplified. But so it's kind of neat to kind of look at it that way. And you guys gave me more confidence in what he's going to be able to do in the future, whether that's with WWE or with the AEW or with another promotion.
AEW, I hope he gets a chance to do it, but I think their philosophy there is I don't know what. I can't follow it. Really. I mean,
I'm with you.
I watched this match, Ospreay, and I forget the guy who wrestles. Supposed to be a big match. And stuff was solid, but man, it took a guy's head off, and all of a sudden they're back up. And I'm going, what the hell, guys? Take advantage of that. The people went, oh, and then boom, they're right back up, and they lose the fans. Maybe we're too old school. But I get so freaking wound up watching it. I get myself, what are you doing? Shit.
We're those old grumpy guys. We're those old grumpy guys.
Yeah.
Them old guys on the podcast.
Yeah. I'm going to Photoshop one of the two.
I'm going to Photoshop you two as the grumpy old men, the old movie.
There you go. Grumpy old men of wrestling podcast.
Yeah, there we go. That's my game plan. Let's get this one last question in before we close out.
It's about Andre?
No, well, we got a table Andre for next week, unfortunately. But okay. Darren Staley, One True Sport member, he says, does WWE have an advantage with having their PLEs as a $4.99 Peacock subscription rather than the $70 pop like you would get with a pay-per-view? I think so, Darren. Greg, what do you think?
I didn't hear the question. I'm sorry.
So, do you think the subscription service that WWE has through Peacock, it's $4.99 a month, you tune in, you subscribe to it, you get everything, or is that an advantage over what AEW is doing with the conventional buy your pay-per-view once every month?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, for sure. makes it easier for everybody who want to get on and watch it.
Right. And it's cheap.
I'm not gonna pay $29.99 to watch one of their pay-per-views.
Well, guess what, Greg?
For $4.99, I'll pick it up.
Yeah.
You know,
you'd be paying $70 or $60 for it. So
no, I wouldn't.
Yeah. Magnum, do you agree on that sentiment?
Yeah, no, I didn't get it when they first did it, but when you look at the volume, I mean, when you look at the numbers of subscribers and you do the math, obviously it works for the WWE when do it. How that impacts the guys and their pay, I'm not so sure. But from a business model, yeah, it works.
I agree. Real quick, guys, Dwayne chimes in again. Any ideas who's going to face the Elite in Blood and Guts? They really just set the foundation for it, Dwayne, I would say. So there's a lot to come. I would guess MJF potentially. Swerve is another name, and maybe Hangman, Magnum's doppelganger.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hey, that'd be a great time to jump in there.
Absolutely. And guys, it's a great time to jump into One True Sport if you haven't. You can sign up for a membership, or you can tune in at onetruesporttv.com. You can tune in, subscribe to this podcast too on the Four Horsemen Network, fourhorsemenetwork.com. But guys, I can't leave without showing the new merch that we got for Greg and Magnum. We'll start off with the birthday boy, Magnum TA. Get that quality t-shirt right there. You can scan that QR code. It'll take you right to that website, and you can scoop up the new Magnum TA t-shirt that we got cooking. Well, more to come with Magnum. And hey, we got to go with Greg too. Greg Gagne, high flyer Greg Gagne, nonetheless. You can scan that
QR code. A little low now.
Yeah, he's a low flyer. That'll be the next t-shirt coming up. The horse won't have wings on that one. But
I need some of that when I go down to Waterloo.
Yes. Hall of Famer Greg Gagne coming up.
We'll talk about that another time.
Absolutely.
What are we going to talk about next week?
I think Andre.
Really?
And guess what? We'll also talk about Power Town as well. So
yeah, but I had some stories of Andre. By next week, I'm going to forget them all.
You'll remember them. I trust you, Greg.
All right.
You're only 40. That's it.
Yeah. I got to count on TA to bring back my memory all the time.
Yeah, but go to powertownwrestling.com, guys. Check out what they got going on there. There's some exciting stuff on the forefront, right, Magnum?
Fantastic stuff, and we'll talk about that a little more next week.
I had a new signee today.
Ooh, oh, boy. Well, you guys are going to have to wait.
Two of them, in fact.
Two of them. Jeez, oh, man. I am excited. And you guys should be, too. Be sure to subscribe. One True Sport TV. Get the word out. Yes, or go to onetruesport.com for your merchandise, powertownwrestling.com, fourhorsemenetwork.com. What a great episode, guys. This was a quick one, but it was very informative. I learned a lot already. Crusher, Ricochet, all that stuff.
I'm going to stick around and watch Tully now.
Then stick around and watch Tully. He's going to be live. Chime in, get some questions.
I'm going to see what he says about Magnum.
Yeah, you know what, man? Maybe we'll chime in with their own chat and try to cause a little controversy. How's that sound?
There you go.
There we go. All right, guys. Hey, we'll see you next week here on Straight Talk with the Boss. Magnum TA and Greg Gagne.
So long, everyone.
Peace out.